Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today, another exciting show, another exciting guest. Today's show is really impactful. Just imagine serving your country, law enforcement, and then along life's journey becoming a father, almost full time, basically, raising your kids, then suffering maybe two career ending, life threatening injuries, and then still, check out this word, still pushing, going through all of this and you're still pushing. And then you wind up becoming one of the best upcoming actors. That's a serious resume. I'm looking at this. Today on the show, we're gonna talk to, I'm gonna call it America's own, because he fought for this country. He had to stay in the military during 9/11. He went straight to law enforcement where he suffered a back injury and several other things, and still managed to navigate being a father and taking it all the way to the acting screen. Like to welcome Duane Michaels to the show. What's up, big guy?
Hey, what's going on? I appreciate that introduction. That's pretty nice. Sweet. Thank you. I should get that introduction every time I go into anywhere, just walk in and be like, okay, before you come into Starbucks, let me tell everybody what you're all about here. Served this country, and yeah,
Hey,
I appreciate that.
your resume is really good. You deserve all that and a heck of a lot more, especially for all those who protect and serve this great country that we live in. Before we get started, Dwayne, tell the viewers a little about who you are before we really dive into your deep accomplishments.
Well, my name is Duane Michaels. I've been acting for about 3 years. And like you said, I had a lot of experience in life. A lot of crazy things happened to me prior. We'll be getting to, I guess, a few things. And decided to pull the trigger to be an actor and try something new. And I've been really successful. God's been really good to me, so I can't complain about that, you know. But I'm having the best time of my life right now.
Wow. So you started
Yeah.
your career in the military. What made you decide to go to the military?
My mom was in the military. I got a lot. My mother was a single parent and raised me and did a good job. And she, struggled. She joined the military when she was in her 30s, and so she actually had to go back and get a high school diploma in her 30s.
Oh,
But she was a very tenacious woman, and I looked up to her, and I joined the military because I saw what it did for her. So I wanted that as well.
why did your mom join
I
the
was young.
military at 30? That's really a
My dad wasn't the greatest, he liked the ladies without getting into too much detail.
lot.
And she didn't have any, she was a homemaker, she was the traditional cook and clean and type thing. And when my dad and her didn't make it when I was about 13, 14 years old, and she had to make a new life for herself. She had no experience. So the military called her name and she went and made that happen. It was the best thing she could have done, and it was just amazing.
How did that affect you? Because you're used to mom and dad being in the house. Your mom was the provider in the house, meaning being the female, being the mom. And all of a sudden you're probably 13 or 14. Now you got to adjust to the military lifestyle. How was that for you?
Yeah. It was crazy. I mean, I grew up in California. I never really left California as a kid, and I became that military brat, and we traveled around
Mhm.
all over the place. My mother, while she was going through training, I had to stay with my dad, so I was like going back and forth to all these different locations, and from the age of like 13 to 14, almost 15, I must have been to 10, 15 different schools and traveled everywhere. So growing up was real difficult around that time, and I was kind of rebellious. I took advantage of it and skipped school and was just doing a bunch of bad stuff in life. But It was crazy. We were always moving around all the time, so it was hard to get my feet settled somewhere.
Where did you
So,
wind up staying at more after your mom got settled and got a career in the military? Where did you wind up actually finishing, going into your getting ready to go to make your career choice? Where would you actually, who actually did the caregiving for you?
my mom ended up in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which is in Lawton, Oklahoma, small town, Oklahoma,
Mhm.
and I ended up graduating high school from there. And right after high school, I wanted to be a DJ for. I was a radio DJ. I don't know if you knew that. I was a radio DJ
Oh,
for 3 years. Yeah, I was on the radio for 3 years. So I did that. I did some radio, and then after that, I joined the military. So about 2 years after that.
well,
So
but because you joined the military because your mom was already in there, you saw what it did for her, so you just said, I don't want to
yeah.
be a DJ.
It's I know we don't have so much time here. So I had a kid at a young age, out
Oh,
of high school, and my daughter, my first daughter, Jessica,
okay.
ended up being born with a brain tumor, and I needed insurance. The radio station wasn't going to give that to me, and I always wanted to be in the military. I was just kind of putting it off. And I decided to join the military at that time because I needed insurance also. They kind of forced me to get in there faster. So my
Why
daughter,
did
and
you
she's
pick up?
30, she'll be 33 in January now.
Is she naturally she's doing great now?
Doing great. I have three grandkids. She has three kids, so I have three grandkids with her. So
Wow. So
yeah.
how much of a life change was that for you at such a young age? You know, you like DJing, but now you got to really grow up. I mean, you have a child
Mhm.
that has a serious injury. There's no more thinking like a kid anymore. I mean,
Right.
was it a hard transition for you to lead it, or did you automatically go into this is my kid. I'm an adult now. I'm going to make the best out of this military career. And when you went into the military, what was the career path that you took?
Um, First of all, I wanted to go in originally, but I was kind of wasn't sure what I wanted to be. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to be in the military, but I ended up being a military policeman.
Hmm.
Um, I always wanted to be a police officer as a kid. I grew up around some really good police officer examples when I was a young boy,
Hmm.
and I looked up to them, and so I always wanted to be a police officer. I thought, well, I'll do military and police. That's two birds, one stone, basically
Yeah.
type thing. So, but it was a big change. It was a huge change. I had to grow up faster,
Hmm.
and be a responsible parent. Not do what I wanted to do. It was now about my daughter at this point. So,
This just came to my thought. You're in basic training, and I know from my brother going into the military, Marines, you get that one phone call, but you got a daughter that needs some serious medical care and you're young. Let's say you're about what, 22 when you go in, 22,
I was 21.
21. Like, what was your mind like? I mean, it had to be like almost to a mental breakdown for you to who was taking care of your daughter during this time while you had to go through this transition?
Yeah, her mom was taking care of her, and we had a pretty good relationship at the time. We were, talking and trying to um, both parent, but we were high school kids when we got together, and we weren't mature. Now I'm going to be this mature person,
Yeah.
and she's still kind of a kid. So I had to really step up on both sides there and make sure that my daughter was taken care of. But she was taking care of her while I was going through all my training. Very similar to what happened with my mom too. Like with me, it was almost like a mirror image of what happened with me with my parents,
You
actually.
wind up getting involved with the MP. Is that what they call it? Military police?
Yeah, in peace.
What was that like
Probably
for
one of the
you?
most of the disliked jobs in the military.
Why is that? Why is it a dislike job?
Oh, because they're kind of known for like when you say you're in Germany or Korea or wherever you're at, you're having a good old time in the club, and here
Right.
comes the MPs. You got to get out of here now. We're the ones that kind of ruin your time, good times, type thing. So,
You wind up what are some memorable things that you remember at such a young age going into the service and then seeing what you wanted to become unfold? Like, give me a moment, 2 or 3 moments that you remember about your journey there at such a young age.
Like, like say the question again. Like, what do you mean? Like,
Like when you
when
first,
I my realization.
yeah, yeah,
Oh man, like the realization of, oh my God, I'm an adult now. I have a kid and I've got all this responsibilities. Um, I don't know. It was crazy because, we can talk about my childhood a little bit in a little bit, but I had a pretty wild childhood. So to have all that stability at one time,
right.
and the discipline, everything all at one time was what I needed at the time, which is really good because I could have went either way at that age. I'm glad that I was more like my mom and not like my dad at that point. But it was a lot of pressure at that age. I was 21, almost 22, and I've got a kid. I've got all this responsibility. I just kind of grabbed it and went with it. I mean, I was like, I got to do it. I have to do it. My mom instilled that inside of me, to be responsible first and take care of your kids.
You mentioned something about your childhood. What was that like for you outside of being in the military? You mentioned it could have went either way. Like, what was your childhood like?
Well, my father was, he wasn't the greatest guy. I don't want to talk bad about him, but he was, very promiscuous. Had a lot of girlfriends here and there. Didn't really care what I was doing. He was just kind of watching me until my mom got through her training and whatnot. So I took advantage of that as a 14-year-old boy, and I didn't go to school, and they ended up throwing me out of regular school and threw me in night school, and I was living in Reno, Nevada at the time, and when I was 14 and a famous person was doing a show at a casino there in Reno, and he sent his manager over to our night school class, and they divided us up amongst like three groups and 3 nights. And I got to meet this famous person after the show was over, and he really sat there and talked with me, like gave me all his attention and just said, "What's your problem?" Basically like, what can I do to help you?
Really?
Um, yeah.
Is it
And
somebody
after
we
this
would
big,
know? Is it somebody we would know automatically? I'm
it was
thinking
Frank
maybe
Sinatra. It was Frank Sinatra.
I was getting ready to say that because I'm thinking at
Yeah.
first when you hear that, you got to go, okay, it's got to be
Yeah.
somebody like Frank Sinatra. What was that like for you with him coming to talk
I
to you?
didn't even know who he was. I mean, I was 14, back then we didn't have the internet.
Yeah,
I had no interest in watching old movies or listening to old music back then.
right,
I had no idea. I knew he was famous, obviously, and I had heard that song, New York, New York, like,
yeah,
and during the concert, I was like, that's the only song I knew.
right,
And I was like, oh, he sings that one. Oh, okay, whatever. And I just remember talking to him. Remember, he had these big old hands and these
really,
rings on all these hands. And he was really nice. And he had said and took the time out to really speak with me about his childhood and told me how his struggles in life. And basically just said, look, you got to take care of what your business, your mom, yourself. And he really gave it to me like that. And I just like an epiphany. It's like the lights went on.
really.
And shortly after, I moved to Colorado, where my mom was stationed at Fort Carson. And it just everything clicked after that. It just seemed like everything started working after that.
Did you share with your mom and your dad who had shared all this life-changing experience with you
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and what
My
they
dad
said?
went
Did
around
they probably
telling everybody,
didn't
my
believe you?
son knows Frank Sinatra.
Did they? But look, Dwayne, did they believe you?
Hmm.
Really?
My dad knew because I had to wear a suit and tie. It was a suit and tie event. And so I wore this giant jacket with a big old tie. It didn't even fit me.
Right.
And so my dad knew about it. And of course he passed it on to my mom. And everybody that's heard this story is like, really? I'm like, yeah, to me it wasn't a big deal back then. Except for the talk that we had. That was the only part that I really resonated with me was that talk that I had with Frank. So
Did you
it's
ever
it's pretty neat.
did you ever reach back out to him after you got your life in order?
If I had to do it over again, I would have.
Uh,
um, when you're at that age, you think everybody's gonna live forever, and you don't. You
yeah.
think you have plenty of time. You really don't. Um, no, I never reached out back out to him.
But that's
That
still
would have been cool though.
yeah, but that's still crazy, man. I mean, even though you didn't know who he was, and then
Yeah,
later
it was
you
really
find
crazy.
out this is the legendary Frank Sinatra, man. Like, who in the hell gets advice for somebody like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hardly anybody.
Life is stranger than fiction sometimes. That's one thing I've learned in my travels of life is life can be pretty crazy. Um, Even crazier than made up stuff, you know. So yeah, it is nuts. Every now and then it hits me. I'm like, man, that was Frank Sinatra. I wish I could go back because I know who he is now. So
Yeah, but check this out,
um,
Dwayne. You think he might be like guiding you from above to get you into your acting?
you never know.
Never know.
Everything kind of fell in line, after that. So you never
Yeah,
know. That's very possible. Maybe he whispered in some ears,
yeah.
keep
Go
an eye on this guy.
keep an eye on this kid now. I got to watch it.
Hmm.
So you wind up going into the military, and you're about ready to come out, but unfortunately, we was hit with 9/11. How did that affect your life? Because you still got to deal with your daughter and keeping everything in check. And now you find out we've been hit on American soil. That had to be an impact emotionally for you because now you have to stay in the military because of don't you guys have a code that you have to do when you're military that you can't come out?
Yeah, it's called stop loss. Yeah, I was in Hawaii. I was stationed in Hawaii. I was living the life out there. I loved it out there.
Hmm.
Um, I had just gotten out of the combat situation and went re-enlisted and decided I'm going to go to a better place, and I went to Hawaii.
Mm.
Well, in Hawaii, they also have units that get deployed, but I didn't know that. And right before, I think it was months before I was supposed to get out, 9/11 happened, and they told they only specific jobs in the military get locked down. The ones that are probably combat ready type thing. And I was one of them. So they're like, you're not getting out until further notice. So I didn't know when I was getting out at that point. So, and they eventually would keep me in for about a year and a half extra. And then I would get out after that. So,
What was that like when you first heard that news being in Hawaii? Because I remember precisely when 9/11 happened. I was a school teacher
mhm.
and was getting
Wow.
ready to go teach in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I have the TV on. Never will forget. I have the TV on. And one of the teachers or somebody called me and said, "Hey, are you watching? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm watching something on TV." I said, "Some plane just hit the building." I'm thinking this is a movie because I'm still getting dressed.
Yeah.
And they was like, "Hey, Andre, that's real." And I was like, I literally just busted in tears because I'm seeing the other plane go right into that building. You're over
Yeah.
in Hawaii. Were you able to see the actual everything as it was unfolding? Like, do you remember exactly what you was doing that moment?
Yeah. I actually remember that moment pretty well. It was like 3 in the morning in Hawaii because it's 2 hours before. I always remember it's 2 hours before California. So
Hmm.
it was about three. It was about 3 in the morning, and I'm always been a late bird person. I was on the computer, and I had a computer room, and my wife, at the time, my wife was sleeping, and I'm on the computer doing my stuff like I normally do. Excuse me. And someone on the computer, it was a game, and somebody had mentioned, "Hey, there's planes falling from the sky." And I'm like, "What do you're like, what are you talking about?" And so I went down. I was upstairs. I went downstairs, turned on the TV, and I saw the damage to the first building. And then right as I'm watching it, the second one comes in. So I got to see the second one happen, and I just couldn't believe it. And then 20 minutes later, I'm getting a phone call, from my boss saying, "Is your stuff ready to go? We're on alert." And then I wouldn't be off for like 3 months after that, like literally 7 days a week, 3 months, 12-hour shifts on the gates, manning everything because we didn't know what was going on. And so I remember that day really well.
Well,
Excuse me.
when that happened and you got your duties, what was
Yeah.
still going through your mind? Because now you have to come back to the scene. What was that like when you showed up on the scene and how do you guys prepare for something like that? You know, because
We're
I
always
know you're in
always
combat, so you're used to it, but this is a
mhm,
whole different type of combat. This is American soil,
right.
places that you've been knowing about all your life. Now, and let's get real. Nobody was prepared for this, but you guys are. Walk me through what that's like for you guys to be ready to help civilians.
Yeah, I mean, we're being in the military, and I can only speak for myself that, with my experience prior to that, I was ready to go. I'm a I'm ready to defend my country at any time. So I was like, okay, let's go. How come we're not there yet?
Hmm.
Kind of when you're young too, you get that spunk in you, type thing. You're like, yeah, let's go.
Hmm.
I still can't. It's still one of those moments in time that you still can't believe happened. I still can't believe it happened. Um, I don't know. You feel like your hands are tied. You can't do nothing. You don't know what's going on. And it took us about 3 months to really realize what was going to happen at that point. I think the invasion of Iraq happened
Hmm.
shortly after that. I would actually get out of the military right before the invasion,
Really?
which was just lucky. Yeah, I was really lucky to get out right before it happened. My buddies went. But yeah, it's just surreal. Because you think in America you're safe all the time.
Yeah.
You get that false sense of security of, and this is America, ain't nobody gonna mess with us, And then when it happens in your country like that, it's just it's like, what do you do? It's hard to believe.
Did they take you to ground zero?
No, I've never been to New York in my life, actually. Still to this day, I've never been to New York. It's going to change this summer with some projects that I got coming up, but I've never been there. I'd always want to go there. Eventually, we'll make it there, and I'd love to go to Ground Zero.
So now you're able to get out, and now you wind up switching into law enforcement. How was that a difficult transition, and why did you want to stay in law enforcement once you got out the military, knowing that you just had to deal with 9/11 and your daughter's still under treatment at the same time, correct?
Mm. Yeah, at this time, I actually had 4 kids at this time. So I have 4 children at this point, and I needed a steady job. I needed a career. I didn't need a job. I needed a career that was going to give me good insurance for my family, for myself, something that I was going to last, when I got out.
Hmm.
Because when you're in the military, you get that sense of security when it comes to insurance. 'Cause you get free insurance and you get they help you with your home and you get a lot of extra amenities. Now I've got to worry about that in the civilian world. So I
Hmm.
needed a pretty good job. And with all the experience in the military, it was pretty easy to transfer over to being a police officer because it's a paramilitary organization also, a lot of
Hmm.
the same training. It was like the academy, they needed like 300 people
Hmm.
or I'm sorry, they needed 26 people and there was like 300 applicants and I made it through. And so it just shows you, with all that experience that I had, it really paid off. And
What's the
I
difference?
did, yeah.
What's the,
Go
I
ahead. I'm
didn't mean
sorry.
to cut you off, Dwayne. What's the difference in transition from military MP to actually dealing with civilian MPs? I know it has to be different because you know
Mhm.
we're not considered military. We're civilians, but we're average people. How was that training different for you, and how difficult was it for you to transition?
A lot of stuff was easy to transition because it was the same. But the difficult part was the fact that when I was an MP in the military, I never really did any police work. I was more of like what they call a combat MP, where you're out in the field, you're securing areas and things like that. So that's not really the same thing.
Mhm.
And then the police work was, actual police work, driving around in a police car, making reports, 911 calls, things like that. So it was a lot different when it came to that. But the wearing the uniforms, being on time, the discipline, some of the training was very similar. But I think the difference is the fact that I was doing actual police work,
Mhm.
like actual, police work, opposed to being out and doing, military stuff.
What was that like for you? You spent what was it like 17 years as a police
Mhm.
officer? What was it like for you? What were some of the things that was really shocking for you? Because you're dealing with people now. Like, were there ever a couple of encounters that you was like, wow, how do I really deal with this? And how did you take your military experience, which really wasn't dealing with people, into civilian lifestyle? Give me an example of some things that you had to really like process and be able to use your military experience to combat dealing with average people on the street.
You're dealing a lot with people in one-on-one. In the military, you don't really do that. You're doing it as a group. Um, so I had to learn how to deal with people individually and how to speak with people and really, listen and investigate and things like that. So um, I think the big shocker was just seeing the world on the other side, all the like the 911 calls that you get and seeing how people's lives are just so chaotic sometimes.
Mhm.
And then it kind of makes you feel good. You're like, oh, I thought my life was bad, you know? I don't know, like how many times you go home and hug your kids,
Right.
or how many times I've seen a house and I would just run home and clean my house because I didn't want it to end up like that house, and just your eyes open to the real world and what's going on in different homes in the United States that it makes you more thankful for what you have, because there's a lot of people that don't have as much as you have. So you get to see that in real time. You get to see these sad homes with, that are messed up or bad situations, and now you got to fix it,
Right.
So you got to learn how to fix these things. And but I think it made me a better person all over around just because I didn't want to end up like a lot of the situations that people were living in. Some of them they couldn't help, and some of them.
we s- we we hear a lot of negative PR when it comes to police officers. You've been on the force for 17 years. I have two of my brothers are police officers, Andre Ewan and Rashid Wallace. He's now a detective in Atlanta. Dre's in Cincinnati. My hat's off to you guys for serving and protecting us. But the the other part of that flip side is we hear a lot of bad publicity with police officers. I'm gonna ask your take on
Hmm.
law enforcement in general as it relates to good cops and bad cops, because there are good police officers in there, but we never really get a chance to ask individuals like yourself that's been on the force for 17 years. What's your take on everything that you see as it relates to a career that you retired from and a career that you've been basically a part of all your life?
Yeah, it's really sad to see a lot of the negative press that they get. There's, and I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but in every job there's going to be someone that kind of messes it up. But being a police officer, it's even a bigger deal because you're in the public eye and there's some big cases that happen.
Right,
I didn't have a lot of experience with bad officers. I worked with a lot of good people. There's going to be that occasional person. Um, I don't want to blame anybody because everybody has their own stories about dealing with police officers, and I don't want to take away from that. But my personal experience is I've always worked with pretty good people, and the ones that we knew which ones to stay away from. That's the one you don't mess with that one, or stay away from that person, or don't get involved with that person. But it's sad to see some of these officers make bad decisions
yeah.
and kind of ruin a lot of the image that people have of police officers. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a cop because I had these great examples of police officers. They were great.
Mhm.
But a lot of kids in different areas of the United States don't have great experiences with police officers. So they get a different image of them. And so it's sad to see that, especially police officers that really want to help.
Right.
And they're already prejudged before they get there. They're already getting slack because of these other guys or gals that were making bad decisions.
Mm.
So I haven't experienced too much of it. I have some experience. I think we all have as cops. But yeah, I think it's really sad to see that. And I want people to trust police officers. They should be able to trust us and make the right decision and not worry about something bad happening.
Now, you've so many accomplishments, so I'm gonna try to get them all. You write you written a coffee table book. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's with 17 years of law enforcement, any guy that or gal that's been in a police department knows that you're going to see some crazy stuff. And like I had said earlier, life is crazier than fiction. And I had so many weird things and crazy and funny, sad, spooky things happen to me that I was like, man, someone's like, you should write a book because people always ask you, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you? And so
Right,
you find yourself telling these stories all the time. So
right.
like, man, I'm going to start writing these down. And then it turned into several stories. And then it took me about 3 years and I finally finished. It's being edited right now.
Oh,
And I'm looking forward to that coming out. I haven't got a name for it or anything yet, but
right.
it's just a bunch of short stories of things that occurred in my life as a police officer. Really crazy stuff.
Okay, hold down. I'm not letting you off the hook. I'm playing police officer right now. You got
Okay,
all of
okay,
these
okay.
great stories. Give the viewers at least three great stories that you can remember
Three. Oh,
out of that book.
there's so many. I'll give you one that kind of sparked the book, which I thought was pretty funny.
Okay.
I'll try to make it brief as best as possible. We had this guy that was steal. He would go to a car dealership and he would steal a car because he would do like those test driving. He would test drive a car, and
Right.
he just wouldn't bring it back. And so this guy would take the car. He was known for stealing cars. I don't even know why they let him borrow it. You know what I mean? I don't know. He's test driving this car around town. It was winter time, and he was pretty reckless. He got in a car chase with police officers, and they had this huge car chase, and he got away. He actually got away. He wrecked the car into other stuff, and the next day they spot him again. They get in a big car chase. He literally gets away again. He wrecks the car again. The third day, he ends up at a grocery store parking lot, and he's in there shopping. And the car dealership guys, some big burly guys that work there, of course, everybody knows about it. They see the car and it's all messed up in the parking lot.
Right.
So they wait by the car for this guy. This guy comes out, they jump on him, they rough him up a little bit, and they call the police, and I show up. And so I get there and I'm like, everybody's excited. I'm a rookie. This is like my first year on the department.
Right.
So they say, so I'm like all happy, I get to catch. Everybody knows about this by this time. And this department was a huge department. It's the largest. I won't give away where I was at, but it was in the Midwest,
Right.
the largest police department in that state. So anyway, so everybody knows about this guy. I've got him in custody. I'm all happy because it's me. He wants to go to the hospital. I don't know why, but he's like, I have to go. So we're supposed to let him go. So we take him to the hospital. He acts like, I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, okay. So I take him in the bathroom. I unhandcuff this guy. He's looking at me like I can't pee if you're watching. And I'm like, well, that's too bad. You're just gonna have to. So I cuff him back up. He complains to the doctor and says, oh, he won't let me go to the bathroom. So he goes into this little bathroom and I'm waiting outside the door, waiting and waiting. He climbs through the ceiling and he comes out and just by chance, I'm like, he's been in there a while. So I'm knocking on the door going, hey, what's going on? He falls through the ceiling right next to me because it's made out of, like really thin. He falls through the ceiling and I'm looking over at him. He looking over at me and then he takes off running. And
Wow.
then the next thing you know, I'm chasing this guy outside of the hospital. I'm like, I had this guy in custody, the biggest guy. Everybody's wanted this guy forever. And here's this rookie police officer. I let him go. I'm chasing this guy. I'm getting out of breath, but I was in the military, so I was in pretty good shape. So
Right.
this guy's desperate. So we're running, we're running, we're running. He's running to like this grocery store parking lot, and there's a truck leaving the parking lot. I'm not kidding you. He jumps right into the passenger seat of this truck,
What?
like it was planned. And next thing you know, I'm watching this truck fade off in the distance, and I'm running like the Terminator. I'm not gonna stop. And eventually I'm gonna run out of breath. So I'm watching this truck fade off in the distance. I
What?
couldn't believe it. I'm like, I just lost this guy. I can't believe it. They're gonna hate me. So I just kept going. Anyway, this car pulls up next to me. It's a pizza car guy. And he looks at me and goes, hey man. This is my impression of the guy. I don't know why it's funny this way, but hey dude, you need a ride? And I'm like, I'm out of breath. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I said, I'm commandeering your vehicle. I didn't even know if I could do that. I saw it in the movies. I'm like, I'm gonna
Right.
do it. So I get in the passenger seat. I let him drive. There's a pizza. It's a pizza guy. I put the
Yeah.
pizza on my lap. I got this pizza on my lap where I said, follow that truck. We're chasing after this truck with a pizza on my lap. The guy that got away has no idea I'm in this car.
Right.
And so the guy that he jumped in the car with probably told the guy, get the hell out of my car. So he gets out, runs into a restaurant. He doesn't know I'm following him. I see him going to the restaurant. I'm like, go to the restaurant, go to the restaurant. We go to the restaurant. I get in there. Long story short, he's in the bathroom. I'm waiting by the bathroom door for him to walk out. At this point, my adrenaline, everything is just, you know. So he gets out of the bathroom, kind of peeks out, looks around, make sure the coast is clear, but it's not because this rookie is just wired. So I grab him and I put him on the ground. I hate to say slam, but I put him on the ground. I handcuff him, and that's one of the stories. And it was all over the news. All the news stations covered it. They were like, it all started here in the parking lot of, that like, and I called my boss. I go, I'm not in trouble or anything like that. He goes, you caught him. You're fine. But I mean, I literally
Yeah.
commandeered a pizza car. So all the guys at work were putting pizza boxes in my mailbox and making me take pictures with like in a pizza shirt and oh yeah,
You
I was a
know,
laugh.
I know you had to be like totally scared. Like I got to do anything I can to catch
I
this.
was Terminator, man. I was the
That,
Terminator. I was not
that,
gonna stop.
that is crazy. So
Mm.
before we wrap up, speaking of Terminator, you are now one of the best upcoming actors. You have several movies out, The Drive Through, GPS, All You Can Eat. I mean, 26 projects and counting. How did you
Mm.
get, how did the opportunities for you to become an actor? What brought all that on? I already know the answer. Can I say it? Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, please. Sure, sure. Yeah. Right? Oh, Blue Eyes. I
Yeah.
wish he was still around and I could thank him personally. If anybody in his family sees this or anybody knows him or somehow connected, then you can thank his family. But um, I'm just the life experience, life experiences. I mean, I'm all about acting classes and all about acting and learning the craft. But I really want to say I draw a lot of my experience from life. You know, I when I'm doing a character, I just think of a time when I had some example like that in my life where I experienced something in my life, especially as a police officer. I've met a lot of different people. You can imagine
Yeah.
over 17 years. So that those are all my characters. Those are all my examples. So anybody that's thinking about getting into acting, I would definitely recommend acting classes. But I would also say if you have a good life experience, you can draw from that as well. So, but I think the big one is, I'm sorry,
What
go
was
ahead.
your first acting job? And how did that even come about? Because you came
Oh
from
man,
you came from the law enforcement. So how did the door
yeah,
even open up for you?
yeah. There's a director named Shauna Leah. There was a movie called Promised Land. It's actually still being worked on. They're still working on it. It was my first film. I have a really good friend. His name is, I'll shout out to him. His name is Robert Capilli. He's also known as Rob Hustle. He's a rapper. I grew up with him. We were kids, and he got into making films. And we were talking on the phone, and he's like, "Man, you've been in the industry, like as a DJ. You've always wanted to do that stuff. You should try acting." And so I was like, "Okay." So I mean, he's always convinced me to do stuff. So I went out and just to try it, and I got lucky and landed a role in Promised Land. I
Okay.
got a role. His name is Bert. I also have experience from the military in creating things, and in this movie I created like a prop for like it was a bomb prop
Right.
for the film. So I was also the prop person for the film as well.
Right.
And so I just got really lucky. I mean, honestly, I just slid right into this movie, and then after that, I was hooked. I was hooked after that. So,
26 projects. What are some of these projects that you've done? I mean, somebody's recognizing you. Let's keep it real. 26 projects.
yeah.
Somebody's looking at you. So what are some of these other projects that you got going on?
I did a series, web series called Ending It All for the University of Colorado. I played a vampire, which is pretty cool. I got a movie called Culpa coming out. We just filmed that. A movie called Perfidious out of Dallas. I've got I'm the voice of the new streaming service, and I'm a little shout out to them. Sean Garvey from Atlanta, a good friend of mine. I'm actually doing a film coming up called The Night We Met on a Train. But I'm the voice because of my radio experience.
Right.
I'm the voice of Honey, the new streaming service. It's like BET meets Netflix if you want to check it out.
Okay.
Um, so it's like the following movie is rated R, and I do the whole voice thing with
I
that.
like that.
Yeah. I've got, with the book, I've got there's a show that I'm really excited about, and this is something I'm really excited about, is at the end of this month, and I would definitely go on Tubi. There's a show called Spilled Paint, and it's already gotten all these reviews in LA. It's gonna be huge. I think it's gonna be huge.
Right.
Some people were even rumored, I hate to say it, but some people are saying it could be like a new Breaking Bad show.
Oh, wow.
And yes, I got very and Brandon Gibson, writer, producer, director. He also plays the bad guy in the show. Amazing actor. He's a stand-up comedian. He's just a great guy overall. Um, this he plays the main character, but I played the Russian mob boss on the show. And I
Oh,
don't want to give
yeah.
anything. I don't want to give anything away, but it gets very it gets very, very violent. So that's not for children. And you'll see. It's the end of this month on Tubi. Spilled Paint. Definitely check that out. I just keep going on. I mean, I have a lot of projects that I've been doing.
What's your
So
favorite
there's a
project? What's your favorite project right now before we wrap up? What's your favorite three projects and why?
My favorite three project. Okay, Spilled Paint, the one I just mentioned for sure. That's coming out, and we filmed it in Florida. It was such a great experience. I got cast as a small part, ended up getting a bigger part, ended up doing stunt coordination, and it was just like a snowball on that one. So it was like
Wow.
meant to be. I'm excited about that one. Hopefully season two, I'll be on that one. We'll see.
Okay.
Um, the second big project would probably be man, there's so many. I'm going through them in my head. There's so many of them. 1923. Do you watch Yellowstone?
Yeah, I love Yellowstone.
Okay, I'm on the spinoff show 1923. So
Really?
that's coming out. Yeah, yeah,
Wait a minute. Hold down a minute. They're really
yeah.
coming out with a spinoff for 1923?
No, 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 no. It is 19. I'm on the spinoff show. I was saying I'm on 1923, which is a
Really?
spinoff of Yellowstone. Yeah, that's.
Really?
I'll be on season two. Yeah, I play a British officer, the tally man. I'm in charge of the docks in London in the
Right.
show. And the two main actresses actually are trying to get on this. I don't want to give anything away. I can't.
Right.
I'm probably not even supposed to say this, but let's just say that the tally man is kind of in charge of the docks, the ships, and they're trying to get on the ship. So let's see what happens. I don't know. But yeah, I
Wow.
played in 1923. I just filmed that in Austin, Texas. We finished wrapping that up, and I think the season two comes out in February. So
Man, you got all kind of things going. You know what? How did your
yeah.
kids feel about all this?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
How does your kids feel about now that
Oh
their
my
dad
God.
is like, can they walk down the street?
Um, no, they're excited. I think my son is the most excited. I've got three daughters and a son. My son, he has my voice. We have the exact same voice. We
Really?
laugh the same, we talk the same. It's really strange. He's got a great personality, this kid. He wants to do voice work. Like
Okay.
he actually does a side on the side. He does, and that this is his microphone that I'm using right now.
Okay.
And behind here, that's my little auditioning area, but we share a room here. He lives with me.
Right.
And my girls are just my daughter Jessica. She has a big following on TikTok. So I mean, they all have this same personality of that you can't help but be around this goofy guy, me, and it not rub off on you,
Right.
later
Right.
in life. So they think
So,
it's great. I think they like it.
how can the viewers reach out to you, support you, get your book? How can we get all that information?
You can follow me on Instagram, and I'm gonna start. You can see a lot of my photos from different projects if you're curious what else I've done, or you
Mhm.
can go on IMDb and look up Duane Michaels. My Instagram is Duane underscore Michaels underscore 72, which is the year I was born. I just gave
Right.
away my age, old man here. Um, yeah, they can follow me on that as well. And then as soon as all this is going to drop at one time. I say from now until next year, all my projects are it's just gonna boom, just dump down at one time.
Are you going to be
So I'm
ready
doing
for it?
oh,
Are you going to be
I'm ready
ready
for it
for it?
now. I'm
Really?
ready for it now. I'm ready. I was like, let's go, man. Um, yeah, it's funny when you do all this work and then it's like everybody's like you said earlier,
Yeah.
people are like, well, you did all this stuff. Where's it at? I'm like, it's there. I promise you, it's coming.
Yeah. And then when it drops, you'd be like, holy
It's
crap.
everywhere. It's gonna be all over the place. Yeah.
What keeps you in that beast mindset, Dwayne? Like, what keeps you going outside of your family? I know that's a major part of it, but all of your dreams have basically come true and they're still coming true. But what keeps you going every day?
I would say what keeps me going every day is my family, my drive. My mother passed away a few years ago, and I was really close to her. And she always instilled that drive in me. She had this great drive. My mother had this amazing drive, and I would like to say I'm a lot like my mom. So I think just family and just tenaciousness. You
Mhm.
know, you can't stop. You can't let. One thing you're going to hear all the time in this business is no, 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 no. You
Right.
can't let that it's the nature of the beast.
Hmm.
We'll throw the beast in there, sorry. It's the nature of the beast that you're going to hear this. You have to have that tough skin, and I think that's
Yeah.
why a life experience for me was really important.
You know
So
what? We definitely gonna have to have you come back and share more of your exciting journey into the land of Hollywood. And I'm telling you, Frank Sinatra's watching you, man. He's watching you, and I can feel it. And I mean, I'm still shocked that um, he took the time out of his day to really sit down and talk with you. You hardly ever hear anything like that. But more importantly, that's something you remember to this day. And you're taking that message that he instilled in you and you amplifying it all over with people that you come in contact with. Once again, Duane, thank you so much for coming on the show. Ladies
thank
and
you so
gentlemen, make
much.
sure you follow, subscribe, like everything that he's doing, support. We can all get along if we just learn to listen, have compassion, and more importantly, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.